Hi, hello everyone. Happy Friday. We're
Yay.
back,
We're back.
and today it's just me and Divina. Gita is enjoying some amazing holidays with her children,
Yeah.
so she won't be able to join us today. Enjoy, Gita. And Kelly had some house issues last minute, so she
Mhm.
won't be able to join us either. But both of them are here with us
Yeah.
in our hearts. And welcome everyone to this episode of the Women's Revolution podcast. And today we are talking about something that you might have come across, which is feminine leadership. So I will go through, we will have a conversation around what it is, what it's not, some of the main traits of feminine leadership, some of the challenges, and some reflections for you to have after the end of the podcast. But before we start, and Divina, we didn't talk about this, but
Yeah. I'm
I'm
happy to.
inviting you if it will ground us for a few minutes,
Yeah.
so we're all present.
Yeah. Absolutely happy to. Um, yes, if it feels good and safe to do so, you can lower your gaze or close your eyes, and we can just simply do some deep breaths. And maybe as we do, breathing in, thinking about breathing in everything that is good and that you're grateful for today, and then breathing out anything that you don't need, anything that doesn't serve you. So you can just do deep breaths in, breathing in everything good and thinking about what you're grateful for, and breathing out anything you don't need and doesn't serve you today. I'm grateful that it's Friday. And breathing out any stress or worries that I had of my to do list. And then when it feels good, you can open your eyes.
Ooh, thank you,
That was a quick one.
thank you, thank you very much. And let's then start about feminine leadership. And the first thing I would like to say before we start this conversation is that I don't see feminine leadership as a leadership style by itself. So I don't think there's masculine or feminine leadership styles. How I see and how I incorporate and have incorporated feminine leadership in my coaching practice and in my own leadership journey over the years is by, oh, I think we lost Divina, but oh, she's back again. I lost you, but you're back.
Yes, yeah. I don't know what happened. I'm here.
Yeah, technology has been a bit strange
Yeah,
today.
it's been
So
plenty.
bear with us, bear with us.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I was to say, the feminine leadership, how I incorporate it into my life is looking at it as specific characteristics that we bring from feminine energy to our leadership style. And what I mean by that is, for example, qualities that are usually more associated to women, and there's research with that evidence, such as empathy and the compassion
Mhm.
and work in collaboration, is the vulnerability, more the emotional
Mhm.
side, the being more authentic, emotional intelligent, is all those parts that are really strong in women
Mhm.
and bring them into our leadership style. So that's the first thing I would like to say. Over the years, there's also evidence that suggests that all of these traits and characteristics have been undervalued in leadership.
Mhm.
Mostly when it was associated, leadership has been associated over the centuries to men
Mhm.
leaders. And most of the leadership models brought the more specific male traits and characteristics, like the strength, being assertive, risk taker, being very competitive, the individual side of being competitive, and as well the more risk taking approach.
Mhm.
And that leadership style and that approach to leadership style has been very successful. However, it also brought some challenges, and we see this in our society. And now, with the evolution of women's role into society, we start to see some challenges both in men leaders and women leaders. On the woman side, we feel sometimes that we need to be more male in terms of leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's how it should be. And then on the men's side, um, some of these more feminine leadership traits are seen as a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they thought that would be a good approach, they feel shame of incorporating some of those characteristics. And I remember in my early days of career, when I started to manage people, that I've tried that. I've tried to be more assertive, speaking louder, to make my voice heard, um, and being more hard, more tough. I will use more jargon words, tough, eh, towards the way I treated people that work with me. But I quickly realized that that was not effective, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was not authentic. I didn't feel it was aligned with me as a human being and as a woman. So I had to start to research and learn more about and implement into my both my personal and professional life different ways of lead. So that's my own experience. And before we move a bit deeper in terms of some of the characteristics of feminine leadership, Divina, I would like to ask your first thoughts about this. About what do you think about feminine leadership? Have you heard about it before? We haven't
Mm-hmm.
talked, by the way, just to
No.
let you know, you that are watching, we haven't talked about this before.
Yeah, no, we
This is
haven't.
the first time we're having this conversation.
Yeah, my so what I wrote down, my first thought, which is something that you then went on to say, was that the empathy. I also wrote down sensitivity.
Yeah,
So characteristics that are innate in women are not valued by society when it comes to work. So I think it just brought up exactly what you said as a reason that I guess some people or men, especially as well as women, see it as something that they should hide
yeah,
because in the workforce, what is valued is the other things that you mentioned, which is about being more powerful and strong and that kind of thing. Though I think being empathetic and sensitive is actually a strength, but anyway, but in the
it's a different
workplace,
conversation.
yeah, a
Yeah,
different conversation. But the in the workplace, yeah, I guess it's not valued. But I would say just not the workplace, but just society. Like those
yeah,
things are not valued. I feel unless it's about mothering children, then it's very valued.
yeah,
But when it comes to work, money, that type of place, it doesn't seem to be valued. It made me think about when I worked for many years ago, a construction company, and I was only one of two women in that environment. Construction, it's men, um, and I did feel like I had to be different than how
yeah,
I would normally be. Um, I I'm a very empathetic, compassionate, caring, sensitive person, which worked well for the area that I was working in, which was relationships to get
yeah,
contracts and that kind of. So it's like that's okay for that. But in the like the office environment, I didn't feel like I could be like that. I felt like I had
yeah,
to be different. And though I wasn't in like I guess a leadership role, I guess it maybe shows that it can trickle down into all areas because I didn't have a team that I was leading, but I still felt like I couldn't bring that side of
yeah,
me to an office environment because it just felt like that would not be welcomed. That side of me wouldn't be welcomed.
yeah. Yeah, I hear you and I appreciate as well. And you said something that I'm going to derail a little bit of the conversation. You said, although I was not leading people. But my view is that we are all leaders, because for me, a leader is someone that inspires. It's not someone that just manages a team, but is someone that inspires others towards something. And usually in organizations is a vision, a purpose, a mission. But I do believe that, for example, in our, even if we don't lead a team at work, we inspire our colleagues by the things we do. Um, we give an example by the way we lead and behave, and the way we lead our lives, and the way we lead mostly ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the understanding I have of leadership.
Yeah. I like
So
that.
I would say that in whatever environment you are a leader in some way, form, or shape. Maybe not the traditional leadership that we are talking in terms of work and leading a team, but we are all leaders.
Yeah.
That's my
Ourselves. Yeah.
one of my core beliefs.
Yeah.
So let's go a bit deeper in terms of some of the more specific characteristics of the feminine leadership style. And I would like to start, of course, with the compassion, because the empathy and compassion, and I separate both. Um, Thanks to actually Jeff Winner, he was the ex-CEO of LinkedIn, and he had a very good distinction between compassion, empathy, and compassion, where he said that empathy is where we can relate to other people, put ourselves in their shoes. And then he says, to move to compassion, we need to add something else, which is we can do something to help them in wherever they are going through. And that becomes, in his words, compassion. So I really like that
Yeah.
framework.
That's nice.
Um, and I do believe that both compassion, empathy, compassion are crucial, not only at the workplace in leadership, but in our world, well, everywhere, I guess, where we are, right? At
Yeah.
schools. Um, and I've noticed, for example, when my son was at school, um, and there are children, but I felt that sometimes, even from grown-ups, there's a lack of compassion for children when they are at school. I feel that even in our personal lives, sometimes we lack compassion for some of our friends and what they are going through, for our neighbors. I feel that overall, there's a general lack of
Lack.
compassion in today's world.
Yeah, I think so. I
What do you
agree.
think?
Yeah, completely agree. And I would just say, especially in my world, in the birth world, and
Ah,
that's what I see constantly. And it's what women are crying out for. It's just the compassion piece that really is missing from their care providers.
yeah,
They just and from their family members and friends, to be honest, like of just the compassion of what they've been through. And it's very, I would say, very basic things that they're looking for,
yeah,
which is just that I hear you, I see you,
yeah,
are you okay, what can I do, like very very basic things that they're looking for. But these basic um acts of kindness just go such a long way. It just goes such a
yeah.
long way.
Absolutely. And something that in terms of leadership, and we're talking, I will now move a bit to the workplace. When you lead a team, there are some very simple things that we can all do to show more empathy and compassion towards our colleagues and our team members. And it's just be there for them, listening to them, but actually listen,
Mm,
because in a lot of times and often I see that, oh, we listen to you, but actually they don't listen. They just hear what is said,
mm,
but they don't listen to understand and then act. And the act can be something very simple, even just saying, I hear you and
mm,
I understand you. You might not be able to do anything else, but just the acknowledgement is
yeah,
very powerful in terms of empathy and compassion.
yeah, really
And
is.
of course, if there's anything that you can then do after listening
Mm.
to support, even better,
Yeah. Yeah.
even better.
Absolutely. So do you find that because of the lack of compassion and empathy and those things not being in the mainstream valued in, I guess, we're talking more corporate world, that employees then feel that they are not valued?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's probably not only corporate. I think it's everywhere in terms of work,
Mm.
wherever you work. More and more, there's a need of us employees. I'm an employee as well. I
Mm.
work full time for an organization alongside my coaching. The feel to the need to feel heard
Mm.
and to feel understood, and for someone just to say, "Okay, I hear you. I'm acknowledging the situation."
Mm.
And if possible, following that, do something to support with whatever you are expressing that you need. Not It's not always possible, and we need to acknowledge that
Mm.
some situations are very complex.
Mm.
uh, but even just listening, I hear you, I understand, I can relate,
Yeah.
sometimes is something so small
Mm.
can make a huge difference. And over more than 20 years of experience, I could see, and I can still see the power of compassion. And it can, to go just a bit further, in terms of compassion, sometimes, and in the workplace, compassion doesn't mean um, always agreeing with someone or
Mm.
saying you are right in the way you are feeling, you are wrong. That's not the
Yeah.
case, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just being there for wherever the situation is,
Yeah.
um, and just support as you can, the best that you can.
Yeah. It makes me think about, and I guess we could, well, you are a compassionate empathetic, but maybe you've met someone who isn't.
Yes,
Um,
I did.
why, and if you've ever had a chance to ask them, like, why they're not that way, like
Yeah,
what are they afraid of, what do they
yeah,
think it will mean, what are they making it mean?
yeah. I can give you a specific example, in terms of a few situations that I've gone through. And it doesn't mean that that person is not compassionate. It means that probably it doesn't have the level of compassion that is associated to the feminine leadership. Maybe it's
Mm.
smaller, let's say, reduced capacity in terms of compassion. And a couple of experience I had, and I can give you specific related to the different needs that women have at the workplace.
Mm.
Either because you have children, or because you're going through menopause, whatever is the reason, um, uh, that you might have, that you might need different flexibility, in terms of, for example, let's say working from home, which has become something very normal after COVID and during COVID, but it wasn't in most of the organizations before COVID.
Mm.
And I've had some experience before COVID where it was just denied.
Mm.
If someone requested that, it was denied. Reasoning for that was business reasons. We need
Mm.
everyone at the office.
Mm.
Um, they can find different solutions for those issues. It's their issue. It's not an organizational issue.
Mm.
So those were the kind of answers
Mm.
I received. In terms of the why, I've asked the why. And again, justifications, business reasons,
Mm.
but also because they didn't have that experience. And because they didn't have that experience, they weren't being empathetic
Mm.
towards the other person because they didn't understand it.
Yeah.
Why?
Lack of understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. Why? There was no understanding.
Mm.
Why the need? And
Mm.
even now, there's a lot of more talk about menopause and the impact that menopause in females has at the workplace.
Mm.
But there's still a lot of lack of understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the impact?
Yeah. Of that on someone. Yes, on a woman.
Because there's a real scientific, physical, and
Mm.
emotional and brain impact on brains in our brains when you go through menopause, but there's
Mm.
no knowledge or understanding. So
Mm.
it's dismissed at the workplace. So
Mm.
I believe that a lack of knowledge
Yeah.
is an important reason. And as well, if you don't have that experience, it's not as easy for you to relate to the other person. And that's where I think building the empathy and compassion is important
Mm.
in whatever situation you are facing.
And have you found that that men in leadership, in your experience, are they still, that's a woman's problem? Like, that's not something that's not something I need to, like, that's a woman's problem. Like, that's not my thing. Or have you found men in leadership are more welcoming to learn that information? Because I think the information is great, the knowledge, so they know, but are they open? Are you open to it? Are you even open
Well,
to it?
I don't think we can generalize, right?
Mm,
Because I've found both.
mm, mm, yeah.
I found both. I found men that clearly say that's not my problem,
Mm,
and I found men that are really compassionate and say, "Yeah, I understand. Uh, my wife has the same issue, or my sister,
mm, mm,
and I totally understand. Let's see how best we can approach this at the organization." So I do
mm,
believe there's a mix, but I also believe that we are moving towards the right way and more, both men and women, because it's not exclusive to men, by the way.
yeah, yeah, mm, yeah,
Unfortunately, some women are
yes,
tough as well in this area. They have
yeah,
more masculine
yes,
traits in terms of
mm,
leadership and
mm,
sometimes don't resonate. So it's not
mm,
limited to men. But I do believe that more and more organizations, leaders, male, female, we are all evolving
mm,
towards the right way of bringing more inclusivity and more equity. I wouldn't say equality. For me, it's more than equality, it's equity in the
mm,
work
yeah,
and hopefully in our homes as well.
mm. And I guess so for someone watching who is a leader, and like you say, we all are, but just specifically, I think if you do have maybe a team or you're working with people and maybe you haven't been that open, or maybe people don't come to you and talk to you about things, like what is something that they could do to become more open, or
Well,
to make it so that people can come to them and speak to them?
well, it's taking the first step. Taking the first step and don't be afraid to show some vulnerability, right? Be
Yeah.
more open to being vulnerable. And one of the things that I would say as well is don't have the burden on your shoulders that you need to have all the answers all the
Mm,
time,
yeah.
that you need to be composed all the time,
Mm,
that you can't show any emotions, that you can't say, actually,
mm,
today I'm not in the right mindset.
mm,
I'm going through some issues. It's fine if you say that. And it's fine
yeah.
if you go to a team member and say, thank you for bringing this issue, this question. I don't have the answer. Let's find it together. You don't need to know it all as a leader.
Mm, yeah. Maybe I just wrote down about your own self image, because I'm thinking about
Ah, that's an interesting one.
some of the managers I've had in my time when I was in corporate, and some of the best ones were the ones who were extremely open
Yeah.
about how they were feeling, where they were at, what was going on for them. Um, Always listened to you, like always, like you said, even if it's not about finding a solution, because you can't for everything, but always listened, just always understanding, but yeah, very open. And were completely, I would say that they were, and these are men just specifically, but men, I've had female bosses as well, which I've actually had great ones, but men specifically who were just so um they wouldn't use that word, I guess, but the only way I can describe it is that they just felt very safe in themselves. Like
Yes.
they just knew, they felt very comfortable with themselves,
Yeah.
and that just oozed out. It just showed.
Completely.
It just showed in everything that they did. It showed in the team. They were very, very sure of themselves. Um, yeah, they were sure of themselves, not in a arrogant way,
Yeah.
just in a, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And it
Authentic.
authentic, yeah, just a good, very authentic, this is who I am, this is what's happening. Always brought us in on everything that was going on, and it was just safe. It felt very safe. So I'm thinking about, just some people maybe not feel that safe in
Yes.
themselves, and therefore it shows and comes out in these other ways.
Yeah. And then it would bring us to several of the conversations in our previous podcasts, right? Is the
Mm-hmm.
experiences that we all have throughout our lives, throughout our journeys, is the societal expectations of what a male
Mm-hmm.
leader, for example, or a female leader should be,
Mm-hmm.
what we think we should be, and we just forget who we are
Yeah.
as as people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And more and more I've learned over the years, and I agree with you, the people that I've enjoyed work the most as leaders is those that first they have that self-worth and they know who they are, and second they are open to listen, understand others, but also they are emotionally agile enough to understand when they need to do something different
Mm-hmm.
and how to manage their own emotions.
Yeah.
And that's part of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I would say if there's a day, and I've had those days, and I had people that work with me that sometimes just need to cry for a
Mm,
minute,
mm, mm-hmm, mm. And
and
that's
that's
okay.
fine.
Yeah.
It's you. It's whatever is happening with you at that moment.
Mm,
But I know, and I've been through situations where that is criticized. Take your
mm,
problems home. This is
mm,
not the place for you to bring those problems.
mm.
And that doesn't exist anymore. We spend most of our day
At work.
working.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's natural that there's a mix, and
Mm,
if we have that support at work,
mm,
we will be much more engaged, committed, happy, productive, because we know they care for us.
mm. And do you know of, or this, I'm just thinking out loud now, but companies, because I in my mind what I'm thinking is that maybe some people who don't value the empathy, compassion piece, think that that means that they won't be successful then. Like if I'm like that, then I won't be successful. And I'm just wondering if we know of, in the ether of companies out there, but people who put that first, who actually put empathy and compassion first in their business and are successful. I'd like
Yeah.
to think that
I,
I'll be one of those soon. But yeah,
well, one example that I have, and it's a CEO that I admire, and I've talked about him today already, is Jeff Winner, ex
mm,
CEO from LinkedIn. He was the CEO from for that organization, LinkedIn, for 10 years.
Mm.
And he early on started on a journey at LinkedIn where he believed and incorporated compassionate leadership.
Mm.
And he also created an organization to support compassionate leadership and spread it across schools and other organizations. So
Yeah.
for me, he has been one of my, uh, you know,
Mm.
mentors
Yeah. Mm.
because from LinkedIn experience and LinkedIn people that worked at LinkedIn,
Mm.
that came through as one of their key values whilst he was the CEO for 10 years. He's not the CEO anymore, so I don't know how the organization has evolved on that side. But
Mm.
for sure, LinkedIn,
Yeah.
Jeff Winner, he
Mm.
was the compassionate leadership
Yeah.
all over.
Mm.
One to admire and follow for sure.
Yeah. So it, just to show like it does work.
It
Like it
does work.
isn't so those that might think that it's a weakness or it's not to be valued, that actually valuing it does work.
Yeah, and not only at organizations, right? If I look at my own experience in terms of my friendships,
Mm.
and over the years, people that I've worked with, and how um, those relationships have evolved over the
Mm.
years, for me, it's more than evidence that compassion, and now I will summarize the key characteristics: the empathy, compassion, being emotional, agile, the collaboration part, work as a team
Mm.
and not focus on individual success or competition, plus the vulnerability and being authentic. I have all the evidence in my
Yeah.
life, either
Life.
personal or career, that
Mm.
those are very, very important. That doesn't mean, though, in terms of leadership, that there will be times when you need to be more assertive. I've been there,
Mm.
or risk
Mm.
taker,
Mm. Mm.
right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
will happen.
Mm.
And you can also be, right? More
Yeah.
assertive.
And those things don't need to be labeled as bad.
No,
Like,
no.
because I would say that those are also great things. Being
Yeah,
assertive and
yeah.
taking risks, and yeah, that's all. Yeah, I look at that as also a good thing. Yeah.
Sometimes you need to control a situation. You
Yeah.
need to make hard decisions and
Yeah.
be more, give difficult message, be more assertive.
Mm.
Those are all important as well. What I would say is that having one doesn't mean that you need to exclude
Mm.
the others,
Mm. Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
just bring them,
Mm.
is develop them and bring them whenever you need, depending on the situation. That would
Mm.
be my, I think, the key conclusion. And I have a sentence that I read someone, let me read to you. It's not mine. I read it, which is: the most successful leaders of the future will have integrated the best of both the masculine and feminine qualities.
Yeah. I agree. 'Cause that's what, when you said that, then it made me think. Like, I think that you can be assertive in a compassionate way.
Exactly.
you know, I would think about that with my kids. Like if there's something that they need to do or not do or don't go, or like I could say it angrily, shouting, or I could just say it calmly with compassion.
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, definitely, I agree. Yeah, it's a nice place to end.
absolutely. It's a nice
Um,
place to end. Before I have a just as we wrap up, a couple of questions that I will just put out there for reflection in terms of female leadership. And three questions. We'll also put them on the description of the YouTube video so you can check them with some additional information if you are more curious to learn about feminine leadership as well. So the first question is: how do you currently balance masculine and feminine energies in your work?
mhm.
The second one: what feminine qualities do you naturally possess? Because these qualities are not just inherent to women.
Mm.
So,
No.
something
Mhm.
to think about. And the third one is: how can you integrate more compassion and vulnerability and collaboration into your leadership style? think about how
Mhm.
can you integrate it a bit more and create just a few quick steps and actions that can help you do that.
Mhm. Love those questions.
So we will put them on the description as well.
Mhm.
And that's it for today. Thank you
Mhm.
for joining us live, or if you are watching the recording, have a
Mhm.
great weekend. Anything to finish, Divina, before we finish?
The usual, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share. Um,
Yes.
and we will be enjoying our summers now, but we will
Yeah.
still have recording. We have recorded some episodes, so they will still be coming out, and we will be back together live the 6th of September.
Of September. Yes, yes. But we wanted to make sure that um, we wouldn't leave you with a podcast during the
Yeah.
summer that you could listen and feel inspired by. So we
Yeah.
recorded a few episodes on very interesting topics as well. They will be streamed through StreamYard in our social media.
Mhm.
And have a great weekend. And we will see you on the next one.
Yeah. See you. Bye.
Bye.